guys, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, man, we're all fucking Delta Force, baby. I want to get over here and showcase all the, we're gonna go here real quick and turn music off, because I want to actually hear you guys. So, I want to, oh my god, bro. I always forget that does that, bro. Alright. So I wanted to go over all the settings that I was able to find and kind of work through. And so I want to shout out the reidboy for this these settings. I found his settings and I tried them out, and they've actually been pretty solid. Now I have some of my own settings, some things I've changed on my own. So as I go through these settings, some of these are his, some of these are mine. Just kind of decide whether or not you want to use them. You're more than welcome to use any of these settings. If you use his setting, all these settings, and you like them, make sure you go over his video also and leave a like, subscribe, and all that good stuff, because he's a pretty cool guy, and he's also one of the very few people that I know of that aren't hating on this game just to hate on it. He's also someone who's, knowledge this game has its own flaws, but it's still a fantastic game. It's also free to play, so you really can't compare it to something like Call of Duty or Battlefield, who make mistakes all the time that are, they're AAA multi-billion-dollar companies. So, it is what it is. So, without further ado, let's hop into the settings. I'm just going to go through them very quickly, but you guys can stop the video at any point to just kind of copy and paste. That's usually what I do when I go over to tutorial, watch someone's tutorial on settings. I'll usually go through, copy them, and then try them out and see how I'm feeling. The only one I did is he does 19,000 money for the safe box. I'm doing 12,000 just because a lot of the items that I'm picking up from safes are going to be between 10 to 20,000. He does 19,000, I believe it is for his, like 19,600, whatever. Which for me, I'm not finding a whole lot of items that are going to fit in the safe box that are that price, right? So I did 12,000 just so that I'm not, if I pick up a bar of soap or something that's like $4 grand, I'm not putting that in my safe box. I'm putting in decently valuable items into my box. So this is how I sort my stash. But I might change this up. I think I might start doing consumables and attachments at the bottom, and collectibles at the bottom, but I'm not too sure. But right now, this is what I'm running right now with the gear first, key cards, firearms, container crates, attachments, consumables, others, and collectibles. Having collectibles on the bottom, I do think is the best strategy, because then you can just rapid sell things without having to worry about, like, selling something you don't want to sell. For controller sensitivities, this is what I'm running currently. Just feels good. This is some of the settings he's running. I think some of these sensitivities I might have adjusted just a tad bit for my own personal feel, but I do feel like these are probably the best overall. I'm running linear. Just a quick note, if you run standard, you're going to have that mobile feeling on controller, just so you're aware. So if you're playing the Delta Force right now and you're trying to figure out why your game is so stiffy when you're turning left and right, that is because of the standard. Because it initially slows down your turning rate, but that increases the faster as the stick is pushed further. While linear, which is what I'm running, stick movement is directly corresponds to the turning rate. So whatever their sensitivities are will be exactly how it is for turning, which makes just feel like Call of Duty, because that's what Call of Duty is. Call of Duty is whatever your sensitivity is, that's how you're moving. So just pro tip. But these are all the sensitivities I'm running currently. I have sensitivity for zoom on, so up until 4.4 to 5 times I have 80, and then for 6 times to 7 to 8 times is 90. So pretty simple. Just helps aiming a little bit more. Your scopes don't feel so sticky. 80 transition. We have all the inverted stuff turned off. I have adaptive and vibration stuff turned off. Which, I mean, you can keep these on. I keep these on sometimes in games. I turn them off if I can, but usually I just keep them on because I actually have those two things, vibration and adaptive triggers. I actually have those two things turned off on my PS5 in general. So any game that has those features are just not, they're not on. So, but you could always change this down the line if you wanted to. Sensitivity for vehicles. I haven't really messed with vehicles too much in the game, so I've been still kind of getting the hang of those sensitivities. I feel like 150 is probably much better than what I had it before. I was playing yesterday with 250 for horizontal, and it made driving these tanks absolutely, and trying to hit stuff with the tanks absolutely ferocious. So we'll have to wait and see how these new sensitivities are, but these seem to be pretty spot on. Aim assist is turned on. Again, I'm not one of those fucking weirdos who says aim assist is cheating, because it's not cheating. I'm sorry you're playing on a controller. If you are on PC and you're bitching about aim assist, get a life, because you're playing on a platform that has the ability to have pinpoint accuracy. Controllers, we do not have the ability for pinpoint accuracy. So we need aim assist in order to actually play the game in any manner that makes any sense or is any fun. So for presets, we have custom. To do custom, all you do is let it default and then just change these settings down here, and then we'll automatically make it a custom settings. So right now we have a slide only. We have some other small settings that have changed, like we use swap L1 and R1, just because I prefer shooting with those. We have auto hold breath on, toggle for lean peak, etc. Um, and now for controls in combat, we actually switched my jump button from the X button to the right analog. I have turned off the flashlight binding button, because currently it does not work properly. I think down the line I'm going to see if I can find a different strategy for doing this. But for right now, I just have it turned off, and I'm just not using flashlights or lasers on my guns. And then my melee button is now X. I just don't feel like I'm meleeing all that often, so don't really need it. But that's just me. For aiming, I kept everything the same, except for now switching optics and zooming is X. So when I aim down sights, I can hit X to do it instead of the analog, because then I'll be jumping when I'm trying to aim in. Vehicle controls are all the same, didn't touch those. For screen, I have show performance parameters, so this way I can kind of keep track of my performance. I just like having these in games that have them, especially FPSs. If it's a story game, I may not run these performance meters, but when I'm playing an FPS game like Call of Duty or Battlefield or something, I like having these on, because it gives you real-time information about how your game's running. And this is really helpful to know if you're being nerfed mid-match like Call of Duty, because if your latency is super low, if you only have a 3 or 4 latency or under 50 latency, you should not be having any desync issues. You should not be having any damage issues, any hit rate issues, none of that, because your game is running at the performance it needs to run. But if you're running and you still feel like you're not hitting shots that you should be hitting and your latency low, well, now you know for a fact that you're being nerfed mid-game. So this is really, really helpful in the long term, because you can kind of gauge and get better at gauging what should be happening, what versus what should not be happening. This is also why I'm so good at spotting cheaters when I play like Call of Duty. I'm very good at spotting them, and that's because I use these things to my advantage, and I learned the basics of how the game works. So definitely recommend turning this on. It's also just nice to see that you're also getting FPS. Like, I know in this game I'm getting a solid 60 FPS the entire time. And so it's really nice to know if that FPS is struggling, because then you can kind of better determine where to go from there. Show detailed item pickups tips. I have that turned on just because, I'm still learning the game ins and outs, so it's nice to have that on. Close backpack pickup tab when being attacked. I have this turned on, so that way I don't get caught in this thing where I need to close the backpack when I'm being shot at. As soon as I get shot at, that backpack is being closed, I'm back in the action again. Minimap I've turned on. I have infantry view distance 150 to 240 for aircraft for 300, and the main map scale is only 100, which is the default. These scales you can kind of change. Don't really notice a difference. I turned it up to 150 day one, and it didn't really feel a difference. So you can kind of change that as you see fit. Graphics, we have brightness. I don't know if it'll show in the video, but I'm currently running at about 75 to 80% of the bar. VSync we have turned off, and we have the performance mode is actually on frames, so we're going to target the frame rate. We're playing on 120 FOV. I think this is absolutely a must if you're playing this game in 2025. That's just my opinion. I think any FPS that has the ability to go to 120, it should be gone to 120. I think it should just be default across all games, in my personal opinion. For audio, we have 100 master volume. Our HTRF is option-based binaural audio. I hope I pronounced that right. Mute and minimized. We have music. I usually keep music about 50% because I like listening to the music. They have some cool like NCS stuff in here because they had just recently a partnership with Alan Walker. For rest of audios, I keep bass 100. I have copyrighted music off, but I do sometimes. I'm gonna start turning this on when I probably do streams, just because of the Or I'll turn this on when I'm not streaming, but when I'm streaming, I'll probably turn this off so that I don't get copyrighted music. Plus, you do hear footsteps a little better in the game world because, like, if you're playing the extraction shooter, there is music playing in certain areas, and you can turn that off, and then you hear footsteps better. For voice chat, I have not touched anything. I've left everything on. Um, and yeah, for privacy, there's nothing really over here. I show player history, yeah, I allow private chat, allow friend requests, etc. Pretty easy stuff. But that is the settings here for Delta Force. Just be advised that the story mission campaign does have its own settings. If we go over here to Black Hawk Down, real quick, there are separate settings for the storyline. So you guys can see here, there are different settings, and I have yet to touch these settings. So be advised, I will be having a separate video going forward to kind of mess with these. But for now, I wanted to showcase to you guys just the sensitivities for multiplayer and for operations. So, thank you guys so much for watching, and yeah, I hope this was helpful to you guys. Today I'll have a bunch of videos out. I have some builds that I want to showcase that I've made, and I want to go over some other stuff. I just have so much content for this game that I want to pump out, but I'm also trying to make sure that I don't pump out too much too quick, because otherwise it'll just kind of flood my channel with videos that just aren't getting views. So we'll probably do 1 to 2 videos a day going forward, and to try to get things out to you guys. But yeah, hopefully these tips and tricks were helpful to you guys. Again, settings were mostly made by reidboy, so make sure you check him out on YouTube. And then yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Later.